Hello, dear students. Today I am going to discuss a chapter from Hornbill book of class 11 English, and the chapter's name is The Portrait of a Lady, written by Khushwant Singh. In the story, the narrator himself is Khushwant Singh, denoting as first person I throughout the entire story. The story In the story, the narrator has given a description of his grandmother who brought him up. The title of the story itself tells us that the lady's portrait or a brief sketch is in front. Says that his grandmother was an old woman like everybody else's grandmother is. For 20 years, she had been old, and her face now has scars and marks on it. This story is basically telling us the bond of love or the relationship, inner relationship of a grandmother and grandmother. Also recalls his grandmother as short, healthy, and slightly bent. Her hairs were grey in color, and they were messily scattered on her wrinkled face. She used to walk around the whole house, and she kept her one hand resting on her waist, and other hand was telling beads of a rosary. The narrator thinks that his grandmother is not pretty, but beautiful. During narrator and his grandmother's stay in the village, his grandmother used to wake him up from bed in the morning and then plastered his wooden slate and organized his breakfast and sent him to school. Grandmother was a believer of God and was a very pious lady. We know this as always her lips used to move in audible prayer. She was also like the winter landscape in the mountains, like pure white serenity with peace and contentment. The narrator's parents left him with his grandmother when they went to live in the city. From that time onwards, the narrator was constantly staying with grandmother. Grandmother used to say her morning prayers in a very monotonous way. The narrator also used to listen to them, but he never actually bothered to learn it. After that, they both had breakfast, and that included of a thick stale chapati with a little butter and sugar spread on it, and they both went to school. Now the question that comes to our mind is, why did the grandmother also accompany the narrator to his school? The answer is, the narrator's school was attached to a temple, and the grandmother used to come with him to school. The children used to sit in rows on either side of the veranda, sing the alphabets or the prayers in chorus, while the narrator's grandmother used to sit inside reading scriptures. And while coming back, the narrator's grandmother also used to collect several chapatis with her for the village dogs to feed them. As we know that the grandmother was a kind lady and was a lover of animals. On their way back to home, grandmother used to give the stale chapatis to the street dogs. Finally, a turning point came in their relationship when they went to live in a city. Now, after coming to the city, the narrator used to go to the city school on a motor bus and studied subjects like English, physics, maths, and many more. Those grandmother could not understand at all. The moment when narrator started going to the city English school, grandmother would not accompany him anymore, as he used to go in a motor bus. There were no dogs in the streets while the birds in the afternoon. The twins asked the lessons that the narrator was taught in the school. He shared all the days with his grandmother after coming home. For example, the law of gravity, Western science, and Archimedes' principle. But this made grandmother very unhappy as she could not help the narrator in studies. Another distressing or disturbing part mother was there was no teaching about God in English. The narrator was being given music lessons. Grandmother was declaring that her music had rude association. Then the narrator went to the university. He got a separate room in his house, and the link between narrator and grandmother was broken. She spent plenty of her time sitting beside her spinning wheel. The last time when the narrator left for abroad for his further studies, his grandmother did not get disturbed. She saw him off at the railway station. Seeing her grandmother at this old age, the writer was thinking that it might be his last meeting with his grandmother, and after he came back, grandmother was there to welcome him back. The next morning, grandmother fell ill. But she could foresee the time to leave this world, as death is coming near to her. She went to her bed, praying and telling the deed. Till her lips stopped, fell down. So the sparrows flew in and sat scattered on the floor. There was no chopping anymore. The narrator's mother fetched some bread for them and broke it into little crumbs, the way grandmother used to do, and took no notice or to the bread. The moment when grandmother's dead body dropped, the sparrows flew away quietly. The next morning, the sweeper swept away the bread. This chapter, both of them used to love each other. Between a grandmother and a grandson.